Hello community, welcome back to another episode of Fast. Today, we'll be talking about house, specifically, future house. Start off building your chord progression. I use 1, 6, 3, 7 and F sharp minor, a pretty famous progression. Inverse the chords so that they sound natural together. Put some random notes together that sound good when they're played repeatedly. We'll be using them as background noises. Create the lead melody for the drop and cut the chords accordingly to the melody. I'll be doing the call and response type drop. The first bar is simple, tight, and has some space. The second bar is fuller and more intense, totally not inspired by Kashmir. Also, do you notice that I do this? It adds a lot of tightness to the melody. A trick to achieve better grooviness that is to have offbeat notes. In some cases, you can also have the fast 16th note. Now that we're done with the meeting, let's turn it into a real thing. Start off, the synths. In every house genre and in general, you need to use a lot, like a lot, of sounds to achieve certain fullness and energy. But you need to be selective. You can't just put every sound that you see in the bank and mash them together. A supersaw and a lead are the most basic things you need. This is supersaw that you're hearing. I have 3 octaves, and the reason for that is that it can add some frequencies for the mid-range and can give a balanced result. That was just the bass supersaw. Now we add more layers, which will bring more power to the supersaw. I'm using the layer plugin just to keep the project tidy. For the mix, you wanna cut the low end and boost some mid-frequencies. Add a camel crusher to boost the volume. There's this plugin called Multiplier, which I suggest you have. It basically fills the empty space. Alternatively, you can use chorus. And never forget the reverb. Onto the lead. First of all, the main lead, or top lead. I'm calling it main, not because it sounds the loudest or it sounds the coolest, but because it is the most unique. The uniqueness of this comes from the legato. I like my lead has this little build before the actual melody comes in. Both of them create some movements for the drop. Here's come the supporting leads. If you like, you can move them 1 octave up after 4 bars for better excitement. The mix is the same as for the supersaw, except instead of boosting the mid, boost the high. There's a key feature that makes the name Future in Future House. And that is the vocal chops. Get any voice line, put it in either Slitchix, Harmor, or whichever plugin you prefer to make vocal chops. Add a little distortion and delay, reverb. You're free to show your creativity. You can boost some mid-frequencies and lower the highs, else it can crash with the leads. Now it's the time for one of the most important elements of a house track, the bass. You can have the bass follow with the main melody, or you can make it unique. But make sure that it shares a harmony with the melody. Also, add some 16th notes, it can put on a lot more grooviness. Do you remember that you need to layer the leads? The same goes for the bass. You should have a low bass, a mid bass, and a top bass. Also, to get a better drop, you should have a bass that goes. For the mix, I cut the low frequencies, I leave it for the sub bass. Boost some bass, mid and mid-high frequencies. Add any distortion you like, as long as it increases the volume aka intensity of the bass. Talking about the sub, I basically copied the bass pattern to the sub bass pattern. Let's talk about the build-up. Pick a simple block for the part that I use to call background noises. A lot of samples are put into the build-up. They are generally white noise, impact, uplifters. And if you're lazy, you can have a build-up drum sample. But you know what they say. Just because you can, doesn't mean you should. This is a call and response drop, so as I said earlier, 1 bar is half empty and the second one is fuller with a lot more percussion, hi-hats, reverse samples. Make a drum fill and make panning automation that goes from left to right. Onto the pro tips. Firstly, you can make a reverb tail, which is reverb automation shaped like this. What it does is that it creates the transition from one note to another, as well as fills the empty space. The audio may get choppy from here. Get yourself a simple ARP. Very simple. Keep in mind that you should use the ARP in the response bar. We don't want it to ruin the call bar. Another small detail that I want to show you is the top kick, or click. Having it on top of the initial kick can make a very punchy result. And this is what it should sound like.